Good evening, cryptid fans, Bigfoot, Dogman, and all the above. Look up, you might see a UFO, you might see an orb, and then you just might see a half drunk dairy farmer. You never know. But anyway, hi, Jeffrey.
How's it going?
Obviously better than you, and I'm not going to ask you how your day was. After an hour and a half phone call with you today, I think I know what kind of day
Well,
you're
that
having.
was
So,
before that was before this
oh,
afternoon's crap storm. So
gotcha, gotcha. But anyway, before we get started, Chad, we missed Chad tonight. Chad Black is sick, 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 sick. So he is on the mend, though he's getting better, but still sick. So we had a superstar take his spot tonight. Her name is Mary Fabian. We appreciate you being here tonight, Mary.
Hey, thank
There he
you.
is.
Yep, we brought somebody in intelligent to ask good questions tonight. So anyway, and Mary
my better
Goodbrake,
question
Mary
to
Goodbrake,
me.
Cindy Goodbrake is back, and she says we're getting this is round two for her here, and we're getting, as I said, the rest of the story. And I was forewarned yesterday what she's going to be talking about tonight, and got my interest real quick. It's all about the woo factor. So, I have some files she sent me that I'll be uploading here shortly, and we'll listen to them and edited version of. And I think there was one photo too. She sent one photo as well with some tree manipulations. Look pretty cool. But I'll get those loaded up, and by all means, everybody in chat, we'll keep an eye out for your questions. It's just me tonight 'cause I don't have Chad helping me. Jeff hasn't learned how to do the
Well,
share a post thing yet.
I can still read them. Maybe I'll figure out how to do it tonight.
You know how? I don't think you can. I think I have to set you as like an admin. It only lets you do like one other person. So
Yeah.
not that I'm shorting you or anything.
I can try to I can try to see if I can.
I'll try to. I'm relying on you and Mary so I can focus on
Okay.
the chat over here because it's been getting really busier and busier by the week. So, and we want to flood Cindy with all the questions we can give her.
Chad just said, "Hey, wait, I have serious questions."
So, but anyway, Cindy, we're just going to cut you loose and let you fly, and I will get your files uploaded here, and I'll let you know when they're ready to go and when you're ready for them. So, all you.
Okay, well, thanks for having me back. I go by Sasquatch Sisters Northwest, which is pretty hilarious because I actually started out from the in Texas, where I was born and raised. And then last time I did the show, I think and part two, I will go into my I might have gone into Idaho, but for time's sake, I want to just focus on some of the crazy things that have happened because so in the first podcast I described in my life when I saw the Patty Gimlin film when I was a child, and it affected me deeply. And then when I was later in life, I moved to Dallas and met and married my husband. He was in the Army at that time, and I had started researching here, and I told y'all a lot of crazy stories about some of the people I was involved with, like Kumbo and the Outlaws and Luke Gross, and they are the ones I owe all the glory, the glory to. I learned a lot from all of those guys, and I still work with them today. I'll call them. Luke is a treasure trove of information. So then I think I said on the last podcast that my husband got transferred to North Idaho, and I don't remember what else I discussed, but basically when I moved to Idaho, my kids were like 18 months and 8 or 9, my oldest. So today they're grown. My oldest is, I think, 31, and my youngest is 20. He's going to be 23 this month, the end of this month. So actually next week. So when I moved to Idaho, I was going to be done researching because of something that happened to me in Boykin Springs. And it was a night that people talk about on podcast. I've had people contact me. This is before the area was popular. I think Kumbo made that area popular. I think the Outlaws area popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, when people would shrug when you would talk about any kind of woo or any kind of infrasound or anything like that. People just kind of like just look down on it, versus today, where I think a lot more people are like have this new age of thinking, and the possibilities that are out there, they are actually, you know, a lot of people like me have come full circle, like with how I think and how I research. And I don't even like that word, but I just use it because the knowledge is never ending. The relationships with them is never ending. And so until I take my last breath, it's going to be a continuous journey. So when we moved to Idaho, so what happened to me in Boykin Springs, I'll just do a quick repeat. A lot of us were there that night. MUFON was there that night. I don't know why they were there. I don't know who invited them. In fact, I had forgotten until Kunbo had told me the story again last year. Excuse me, because I interviewed him for my book. It's like 17 pages. His interview was so long. But it's a lot of great information. But I totally forgot like a lot of things that had happened that night. We were over at Boykin Springs, Dead End Road area. It's not a secret anymore. You know, everybody knows about Boykin Springs there. So that night there, it must have been not a good night to go to this area, because when you go down, when you turn into Boykin Springs, so here's the campsites, and then if you keep going, you can turn down this other road that'll take you to Sexton Pond. So when you turn in there, you can either keep going straight or you can make a left, like at Sexton, or it'll take you to Sexton Pond, like dry camping. And I think that was the area where this happened, or somewhere on Dead End Road. That night, me and my friend that I could see standing in the woods, we were just like frozen. And then it was probably the strongest that has ever happened to me. And then both of us were just like released at the same time. And Kelly, she was my best friend at the time, she was like looking at me, and both of us were just like really, really ill that night. She would get it worse. Her eyes would get watery, puffy, and she was just really sensitive. And so other things happened to other people. So because of that, I'm not putting a lot of emphasis, but it was a crazy night because other things happened to other people. But as far as me, that was a crazy time, and I didn't know everything that I know now. So I eventually did go back into the woods, but I was of a different mindset at that time. I learned a lot. I learned how to just listen. I had been chased out of the woods in Oklahoma and East Texas on my horse. Just a lot of things happened. I think I even gave my husband's encounter in Southeast Oklahoma. So then when we moved to Idaho, I asked him not to buy a house in the woods, and we ended up in a house in the woods. So it was like destiny. As before the ink was dry on after he signed, because I was still in Dallas, we arrived in Idaho because we had to haul 3 horses and 3 dogs, and I had to hire someone and train them, and then I went part-time at work. And so my husband drove back down from North Idaho and brought a friend, and we had to haul 3 horses, and someone drove my car so I could watch the kids. So when we got to Idaho, 4 days later, I will never forget going over the Montana passes, because I've always loved Montana. We had gone, I think, 2 times before we moved to Idaho. We were actually trying to get to Montana. So the next part of the journey, because I was done, like in my head, I was done. So I think in the last show, I did go into the first couple of years in Idaho where I was hearing things out in the woods. In 2006, my husband, who was over the motor pool for the 321st Engineer Battalion out of Hayden Lake, Idaho, it's not there anymore, but at the time it was. I was just trying to figure out how to survive as a mom, and he was gone all the time, and I was trying to block everything that I was hearing. I found myself looking at structures and hunting for structures in the woods. I was going up in the mountains, and even though I said I was not going to be researching anymore, too many things were happening, and I mean, it was in my face. And then word got out, because I kind of just got into it again without really meaning to. And the first couple of years that passed by, I kind of just accepted the fact that wherever I went, it was gonna follow me, and I tried to turn it off. The only way I could turn it off was if I heard something in the woods, I was just like, okay, fine, that's great. But I was really trying to concentrate on raising my kids. I got involved in the PTO or whatever at my son's school, and then my younger son, in the mornings, what the routines were at that time is I would get up, I would start the coffee, and the school bus would come to get my older son. He was in 4th grade at that time, 4th or 5th grade. And my younger son would still be in bed. And so I would take him by 6:40 a.m. I would have to be 2 blocks away at the bus stop. Now, in North Idaho, in summertime, it gets daylight like at 4:45. Now, it's not bright, but around April or May, it starts getting light out earlier. So, and then it's light out till like almost 10 o'clock. But in October, when school starts, the moose are down off the mountain. It's super dark in the morning. So when I leave the house with him at 6:30, I would back down my long driveway. All of my property is woods, and everything around at that time was woods. And the surrounding properties, I didn't have some neighbors, they were empty lots. There was 3 empty lots, 1 to the right of me and 2 across the street from me. And then then there was like a power line road, and then like 20 acres, and then it went up the mountain. So there was plenty of opportunity to be watched at any time I was out there. Whatever, didn't matter what time of day it was. So I think I don't know if I told this story or not, but since we're going to be getting into the woo, the way we found our house was very strange, because the real estate agent said a lot of people did not call. Like my husband was like the only one who called to come look at this house. And the house on 6 acres or 5.5 acres was at a very good price. And at that time, everything was going up. So why no one else? It was meant for us to live there. Right before the ink was dry, the real estate agent said, you have an offer for $60,000 more, 40 or 60 more thousand. And my husband is like, oh my, what? Seriously? But he had to come down to Texas to come and get us. So the other real estate agents were like, we didn't see that house on the MLS until like after we signed. So when I tell you that I do not know how to explain that, like I don't know how to explain that. That just, and I didn't realize it till years later. The first couple of years there, things were happening right away. We were hearing things out in the woods. Some paranormal things were happening, like right off the bat. In the morning, like when I would take my son to school, I would pick up the neighbor 10 acres down. The road that aligns my property is like a logging road. It's not like an asphalt road, it's a logging road, and I can see Hoodoo Mountain right in front of me.
Hoodoo.
And yes, that's what it's called, Hoodoo.
Hoodoo.
And
Yikes.
yeah, and a lot of things happen. So I will just give you some examples. And this is early on with the paranormal. One morning I was taking my son to school and we were running late, and I backed up and I went down the road, and then I realized I had a flat, so I had to pull over. So this is literally 5 acres over. It's dark. I told my son, get down. He ran to the neighbor's house and he got his buddy, and I watched in the road, and I told the mom, I'm like, I've got a flat. And I'm like, just run, boys. And so they had to run, let's see, 10 acres and then 5, 10, 15 acres to the right. And then they did catch the bus. So I'm standing there. So now it's like 6:50. My neighbor's like, she comes over. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just going to walk home and I can leave the car here. It's like, like I said, there was nobody else coming on that road. So I was just looking at the flat, and then the property that it was in front of, there was no house on it, just a horseshoe driveway. And I heard my name being called from those woods. And I heard like the end of my name,
Creepy.
like the end of it. Now I just kind of like stopped, and because I was walking home, and then I heard it and I stopped and I went like this. And I looked back down the road because I could see my neighbor's house. And then I was looking across, because the road is very narrow and it's all woods. So I feel like woods are creeping in on the side of me. And that was like 2004 or 2005 when that happened. Like, I think it was 2004, because that's happened like right off the bat. And I just, was looking into the woods, and I think I said, like, what do you want? Like, show yourself, I don't know what I said.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Popped
Uh-oh.
up. I told my husband, but I'm sorry, did you say something?
We lost you there for a few seconds.
Oh no. Did you hear what I said though, or was I cut out?
Totally, everything cut out.
Oh no. What's the last thing you heard?
Uh-oh.
yeah, you
Can
were
you hear me?
walking. Yeah, you were walking down the lane, and the trees were crowding in on you.
Okay. So I heard my name being called from the woods, and then I went home and I told my husband, and then he came later and fixed it. So I was at home that day, and I was thinking, well, what could that have been? And then so things like that would happen. So like, what does that have to do with with Sasquatch? Nothing. So many other things would happen that I would call that would be paranormal. And I was raised that if you can't see it, if you can't touch it, you don't play with that. Play with it. I'm not into the Ouija boards or anything like that. I was just raised that way in the Catholic Church, but I mean, I'm not Catholic today. So that afternoon, I had to go walk down to the bus stop because my husband didn't get home till after 5. I had to walk past my vehicle, and I remember I took the driveway, and I took the driveway, and I was looking into the woods, and I was just waiting to hear anything else, but I went and I got the kids from the bus stop, and then I walked back home, and things would be breaking in the woods, things would go missing, which are all typical traits that you would hear of, like with the cryptids. So this other time, this is years forward, I went to go to my neighbor's to go borrow something from, I don't know what it was. I was going to cut through my woods. She was 3 acres over. I had to go through 3 acres of woods, and 2 of those acres are clear today. But at that time, my woods on the left side of my property to go to hers was pretty thick. So we had a horse trailer parked in the driveway, and when I opened up my door and I was going down the front step, the horse trailer. Can you still hear me? Because something flipped down, or did I get cut out?
Last thing we heard was the horse trailer.
Okay. The horse trailer started shaking, like really shaking. And there was nothing, like, I thought maybe there was a critter that got in there, because there was a deer that was walking around and people would feed this baby deer. And I thought maybe it got into the horse trailer, but I don't know how it could have. I was just trying to explain. So I hopped on the back of the horse trailer. So I'm 5'1". So I have to literally hop and look in. So it's not like it's easy for any animal to get in there, but we do have a door on the side that you can hop in to, like a release door. So, but it was closed. So when I looked in the trailer, there was nothing in there, and my heart my stomach just like sank, and I dropped to my knees, and I started praying. I dropped to my knees and I started praying, and I said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you. And then I walked to the road and I ran to I didn't go through the woods. I went to the road. Again, densely wooded on both sides. So that's really no better, but I ran over there, and now it's dark. And she opened up the door and she goes, "It looks like you've seen a ghost." So those are just 2 examples of things that have happened, and that's not all. I could sit down and write a whole chapter about some of the paranormal things. Another time, I was around 2017, I started audio recording, and I think on the last podcast I told you that I had picked up chanting with war drums on one of my audios, and that just really was very disturbing to me. So I stopped recording, and I was just, I didn't know what to do. That was 2017. So my oldest son graduated in 2013 school year, and he moved out of the house. But when he was younger, he's had maybe 1 or 2 encounters camping out on our property, and then with his friends, and then they would hear walking around, and it wasn't us. So my younger son is a total magnet for activity on the property. So when I say that I've had paranormal things happening on my property, I went through a really, really hard time with my youngest son in his teenage years. He was just very difficult. I was convinced he was possessed by something because he was just very disobedient, very hateful. Nothing was going right. I was home alone quite a bit. My husband had retired out of the military in 2006 or no, I'm sorry, 2007. But then he became a private investigator, so he was still gone all the time. You know, I was used to that after a deployment and just being gone. You know, my younger son. So around 2012 or 2013, he went camping down the road with some friends, and I think that was his first encounter that I can remember. He was camping like 4 miles from the house, and I remember he asked my husband if he could go camping, and I'm like, there's no freaking way. You're not old enough. You're only 12. And of course, in my husband's eyes, he's old enough. And I can't repeat what he said. He said, Mama, you're gonna have to let him off the
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's just great, honey. And he's like, he'll be fine. So that was the start of things happening in his life. He was camping that night. They took the four-wheeler and they were by the water camping, and this is on kind of like state land by this lake that bordered private property where they would let the public come on their land. It was a 3,000 acre ranch that a pioneer family had founded back in the, when the town became, the settlers came in, the fur trappers and all that. So the next morning, my son called us. I think he had a cell phone. He had to have had a cell phone. They heard something like something heavy that was thrown in the shallow end of the water, and then they heard like walking around, and they were terrified, but they did not call us at home. They called, like, I don't know, like the sheriff or something, and they were saying, hey, we're outdoor camping and we're hearing these noises, and the sheriff was like, call your parents. So I just thought that was kind of funny, but it intensified, and they turned on the four-wheeler and the headlights of the four-wheeler until the four-wheeler died. So the next morning, my husband had to go like start the four-wheeler up, and then they all came home and they were all just oh, this happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, seriously. And after that, he would have many other encounters of things that would happen. Around 2017 is when things started changing for me. I was not completely flesh and blood anymore because of all the things that had happened and things I couldn't explain. And I was also searching for help. I was searching for help for me. I was searching for help for the property from the local tribes. My best friend's sister is married into the Spokane tribe. So I had access to those people. We went camping off the Columbia River off of the Spokane reservation. It was like a girls camp out every summer. And sometimes some of the men would come down and we would talk Bigfoot. So I was really, really shocked when they were saying, well, do you know your heritage? I'm like, what are you talking about? There was this one guy who was, I don't want to say like a shaman, however you say it. He kind of liked drove around and like would pick up the garbage. I think he worked for the tribe, but he was friends with the family, and so when we had our camp out, he would come down there, and we had things happen at camp too, because we camped in the same area. We camped in the same area every year, and they started asking me not to talk about Sasquatch anymore, because it was like we attracted that energy, and some of the people were afraid to come camping. It was like, really? Come on. So I started looking for help, for answers. I wanted to know, why was that mountain called Hoodoo? Why was I being the center of these anomalies coming to me? Why were all these things happening to me? Why were they in my face? Why is my kid being a brat? Why is he so intuitive? You know, like, what is going on here? I stopped audio recording because I was sure I was dancing with the devil at this point. I didn't know what to think anymore. I was convinced it was my fault that we were in the situation that we were in. And they all just laughed at me, and they said, no, it's not that. Something is going on here. Your reality is what you make it. So I'm like, okay. I started working, studying with some of the elders, I think is, I don't know what else to call them. And I started going down my family history. And my great grandmother is actually Indian from Mexico. She was actually a healer, and they called her Nachita. That's what she went by. And I remember when I was a little girl, you know, some of the things that she would do. She would make these salves. We would go across the border in Laredo, and I remember going to these shops, like these herbal shops, and I remember my mother saying something to her, like, I remember my mother coming into the room when I was sick, and my great-grandmother was like doing something over me, and sometimes she would do things that the Hispanics knew, like the egg, the evil eye thing, like that's something that's in my you know, the Mexican world, or I don't know how else to put it, the ojo, there's something is what they call it, the evil eye, you know, like when you would misbehave or when you were sick, you know, they would say, oh, we're going to get the evil eye out of you. So I don't know, you know, my mother was not always comfortable with that, and that's really all that I remember. But I was always different, like my whole life, and I was always like looking for answers, and I never like really fit in, but I was always like very verbal, and I was always in trouble at school, at home. I defied my parents, like the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So here I am with my younger son. All these other things, you know, have happened to him. And, you know, he's so smart, he's confident when he makes, and even at a young age, he would be like, well, this is what I think. And I would just be like, ah. So when he camped out at that young of an age, that was before 2017, because he was 17, I think, at that time, because he hadn't started driving yet. So 2017, I was just didn't know what to think, because it just seemed like we had so many freaking problems, and I was so depressed. I didn't know what to think. I didn't trust myself anymore. And then I just had things happening like in my face. So everything is happening at once. And I just really started seeking answers. And my younger son has always been very active outdoors on four-wheelers or on dirt bikes. And in May of 2017, my house was slapped big time. And I wasn't even home. I worked Monday and Friday nights. So this Monday night, I'll never forget, it was a Monday night. I would come home like around 10:30, like clockwork. I would go to my friend's house because I watched their kids. They had foster kids that were very hard to control. But they knew me, and I could 90% of the time pretty much deal with their issues unless they had something, an episode. I would just call my friends and they would come home from whatever they were doing. So on this one night, it was the Monday before Memorial Day. I will never forget this. I came home around 10:45, I don't know what time it was, and I walked into the front door. Now, at this time, I did not have my lab that I am gunner, and I did not have a fence. My property was not fenced in yet. That would come later that year. I got out of my truck and I walked up the steps of my house, and it was dark. Everything was dark. And I remember when I was pulling in how dark it was and looking over to the right side of the woods because my husband had mentioned he wanted to build a shop. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, how much is that going to cost? You know, because we were on a one income, even though he was retired now, and he was working as a private investigator. So I was thinking, wow, it would be nice if we could have a shop. And then it was so dark, and I was thinking, golly, I wish like we could have a shop. I wish there was a light there. So when I got down from my truck and I walked in the house, my husband goes, Cindy, is that you? I'm like, yeah, of course it's me. He knows it's me. And we're pistol packing all the time. We've got something loaded all the time, or ready to go, I guess is the right term. So at night, when I would come home that late, I would have a glass of wine, or I would watch the news, unwind a little bit, and then I'd go to bed. Well, my neighbor texted me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't read it. So the story of where my car broke down in the property next to mine early on, there was no house there. So now it's 2017. There is a house there, and they are also ex-military. So everyone needs, that's an important fact, because this is no chicken that lives next door to me. There's another retired guy that lives next door to me, him and his wife. So it's 2017. I come home. My husband, all that. My neighbor texts me, and I, don't read it. So I go to bed, and I wake up the next morning, and I come into the kitchen, and my husband is getting ready to leave. He's having breakfast, and he looks at me. My husband is not into this topic. I said that at the last episode when I was on y'all's show. But he looked at me and he said, something slapped the house last night. I froze. I said, what? Because I'm not home. And he said, I was in bed, and something slapped the house. And he finished his cereal like it was nothing. And I went, well, like, where do you think it hit? He goes, I don't know. I just heard it. Something popped down again. He said, I just grabbed the rifle, and I went down the hallway to the kitchen, because that's looking into the backyard, into the backwoods. But there was nothing there, and the dogs were fine. I'm like, well, what the heck? I ran out the front door. Now my house is like, has a running porch on it. And the side of the house is where we sleep. I mean, my bedroom faces I'm trying to think, east, west, whatever side. So I ran out the front door and I ran to the side where I thought it would have slapped. And I was, whatever it was, slapped the house. And I was looking everywhere, but there was nothing there. Now my house is very steep like this. You'd think it would have an upstairs, but it doesn't. It's steep because of the snow, so that helps it to fall. So I was looking at my bedroom window. I looked down because where I sleep, another odd factor is there is a pathway that comes from the woods and it goes underneath my bedroom window. And over the years, I would hear something running through that area and it goes back into the woods. Don't ask me what that was. I don't know, but I've heard that from the time that we moved there, and every time I would go outside, of course there was nothing there. So I wanted to move my bed to the other side of the wall, but my husband didn't want to because he put the TV on the wall and, well, you can see the TV, and he just thought I was crazy. So
Cindy,
we left.
Is your bedroom on the second floor or first floor?
We only have one floor. We don't have a second floor.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
So,
okay. Thank you.
So, excuse me. So I'm outside looking. There's pine needles all on the ground because there is this one big tree that's very close to the house that should have been taken down by the builder, and he didn't take it down, and our septic is right there. So there's this big ponderosa pine that probably goes 50 feet high up in the air. And I was standing by that tree and I was looking down for any kind of prints, but of course with the pine needles, it's almost impossible to see anything. I couldn't even really see any indentations or anything like that. So I was like, well, that's interesting. So I walked back around to the front of the house. So now I'm seeing the railing. I'm looking at the house, and there on that, across the hallway from my bedroom, there was handprints on the house. And I just went, my jaw dropped. That's my son's bedroom window. How come you didn't hit my bedroom wall outside the house? He hit the front 3 times. 1, 2, 3. It was like he hit, or whatever it was, hit with the palm and the tips. And then you could see like just the palm print, like just a boop, 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 higher up. And I just stared at that. And then I ran in the house and I told my husband there's handprints on the front of the house. He didn't bat an eye. He wasn't concerned. He got up to go to work and I said, where are you going? He said, I'm going to work. I said, are you crazy? You can't leave me here. And he was like, if they haven't kidnapped you now, Cindy, I think you're fine. Like he made a joke about it. I'm like, that's not funny. And he just looked at me like, you just better get it together because this is getting ridiculous. And so he left. And I called my friend who's a real estate agent and I asked him, how much could I get for my house? Because now I'm ready to sell my freaking house. Also, I forgot. I read the text to my husband. I was like, oh my God. My neighbor texted me the prior night, whatever slapped my house, walked from my house, took that trail, went next door, and they started messing with his property over there. He basically said that his lights were going on and off. which could be anything, if you want to argue the point. Yeah, of course, a deer could walk by, a wind could go by, but his animals were acting crazy. He said, my birds are acting crazy, the cats are hissing. His wife is a nurse, so she has to go to bed really early because she has to get up early. She has to be at work by 6 a.m. So she goes to bed really early and he still is up. So it's midnight when this is happening over there. He said, hey, heads up, there is a bear or there's something in the woods. And he said, my lights are going off, my animals are acting crazy. And he said that he saw something standing. He went down the hallway to go to bed. And he said he heard a thump on his kitchen sliding glass door. He turned around to go look, and there was this cat that they feed all the time. It's feral. It's never come into their house. This cat was plastered against their sliding glass door, and he opened it, and it ran in the house, and it ran to the back of the bedroom. He had 2 other cats, so he's like, okay. He closed the door. He went to the back bedroom. The cat was underneath the bed. Their other 2 cats that are in all the time were on the bed, but their eyes were wild and they were hissing. He's like, what the hell is going on? And so he looked outside his window. Now, his property is thicker wooded than mine is. And so he's looking out these big windows, no curtains. And he says he could see something standing on haunches. When he said that, to me, I'm thinking dog man. And it was sniffing the air straight up. It was sniffing the air. And then he said it went like, what?
That does not sound like a Bigfoot.
Right. So he said it looked over at him and he just went like this and hid. And then he looked again and it was gone. He said he got his pistol and he slept with it all night long. And I said, well, so he said there's got to be a bear out there. And he goes off into why he thought it was a burglar, but then why it couldn't have been a burglar. So it had to have been a bear. But he slept with his pistol all night long. So, okay, why are you sleeping with your pistol all night long? If it's a bear, it'll be outside. Why didn't you leave it on where it normally is? So my husband left. I called my real estate agent and I told him what had happened, and he was open to a discussion about it. And then I called my friend in Alabama, and which was Bear, and he called me, I think, back that evening, and we were just having a discussion about it, and he was telling me I would be fine and all this stuff. He would also tell me, don't give it attention, it'll go away if you don't. I think that's what he said. But my husband came home that evening and he heard me talking about wanting to sell the house. And when I got off the phone with Bear, my husband said, so you want to sell the house now? I'm like, hell yeah. I said, did you hear what Ken said? He's like, where are we going to go? I'm like, I don't know. Like, because we like it there. He's like, where are we going to go? The city? I'm like, no, but we can sell this house, buy some raw land, and that house you always wanted to design. Like, how about no woods at all? And he's like, Cindy, well, there's nothing out there right now. Everything was so expensive. And he's like, oh, so where are we going to live? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, I'll tell you what, you need to get over it, get over this, figure it out. Or if we have to move, because of this, you're going to be done researching. Like, and he meant it, you know. I was like, fine. So keep in mind, he's ex-military. He's kind of a no-nonsense kind of guy. The next couple of weeks, I just decided to figure out my pathway of where I was going to go, and I decided I wanted to know more. So that fall, that end of summer, going into September, a lot of things had ramped up. My husband gave me his audio recorder, showed me how to use it, because he used it out in the field being a investigator when he interviewed people. So he went and he purchased one of those cheap ones from Walmart, and it was July 2017. I will never forget that I started to just put it out on my front porch, and what I got was horrifying. Was over the next couple of years, the things that I would get would be unbelievable, and the luck of some of the things that I caught were unbelievable. This was the time that I was seeking help for my family. I wanted to know answers because things were going crazy, things I couldn't explain. I was trying to navigate which direction I was going to go. I was even talking to some pastors, and one of them said, "You're chasing a demon. You need to." I'm like, "No, I'm not. That I know is not true." So I just went with my own instinct, and I started opening up a little bit. But now you're opening up yourself to danger. You're opening yourself up to the paranormal. So at this point, you have to learn discernment really quick, is what I've discovered. That August, we started building a shop. The day that they delivered the metal sheets, which could easily be 25 feet long, the guy delivered. We told him, do not bring an 18-wheeler down this road. You're not going to make it in. So whatever vehicle they delivered it in, they could barely get in, because my husband said, realistically, put it over here. So they delivered the supplies, which that day was the 25 foot of the metal sheeting, which would be the whole shop, which we had the skeleton built already. Now, by this time, I had learned to start researching with respect. I started talking to the woods. I started asking questions. When we had to hire someone to clear an acre and a half, so I went into the woods and I said, well, we're going to be building a shop, but I didn't ask them, out of respect. And some people don't get that. I've had people say, well, it's your land. Well, yes, but still, this is what you have to do. I started learning how to sage. I had learned they had taught me how to protect my property, how to protect myself. So I was learning some of these things now from some of my tribal friends, and just from some of my other friends that I had worked with also, that were Indian or Native American, that were living there in my area, and they were going through the same things as well. At that time, we had the shell of the shop built, and that night, the day that they delivered the metal sheeting, I put out my audio recorder on the front porch. It was 9:50 p.m. because we were going to watch a TV show, and I remember looking at the sky, and we were having a discussion about where they placed the metal. And my husband was like, yeah, it'll work. The next day, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's that noise?
Hi, Jeff.
Weird. The next morning, when I got the audio recorder, you could hear the metal being slapped together, bam, bam, bam. And then there was like this noise coming from the woods. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? They sounded pissed. So I'm like, and it was, I had my coffee and I walked out there and the workers were out there, I think, working on the distant woods. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we're building a shop and this is what's happening. And we have, I'm sorry if I didn't ask you, I'm still learning, stop, we're building this shop, we have to do it. I'm learning also at that time how to navigate my way down this road, trying to open up my mind a little bit more. And they finished the shop like a couple of weeks later. Unfortunately, there was a tragedy. We had my younger son's dog at that time. He was 14. That's how I remember his age, because Jackson got ran over by one of the heavy machinery.
Oh.
He happened to go underneath this piece of machinery, and then they went to lunch, and then when they came back, so they ran over him. That was totally my fault. I didn't have them put up. We didn't have a fence at that time. So I was inside the house and my son came running in and he's like, Mom, Mom. And I was on the phone and I looked at him and his face was just pale white. And I said, I've got to go. And then I saw the workers, which they were our friends, him and his son. They were walking up the fence and he says, Mom, Jackson's been hurt. I'm like, what? And I was like, okay, let's take him to the vet. And you couldn't, I don't want to cry. So you couldn't pick him up and without him screaming.
Oh.
And I will never forget the look on my son's face. And he's had that dog since he was 2. So we put him in the vehicle and I went up to the vet, who was a godsend, because he always gave us like discounts, to treat our horses, and that's not cheap. So we went to the vet. He was just messed up from the waist down. And it was late in the day, and they said they would have to keep him overnight. And I told my son it was an accident and that it was my fault that we didn't have a dog in the house, and that when we got back home, the workers were still there, which was our friend and his son, and they were just upset. They were emotional and they were very upset. So
Jerry, you want to mute?
when we got home, they were just devastated. And my son said, well, it was an accident, but I think he had hope that Jackson was going to make it. So that next day, my friend who worked at the vet, I called her and she said, hey, the vet's going to have to talk to you. I said, does this mean he's dead? And she got upset. She said, I can't tell you that. I said, okay. I knew. So he called me. He gave me the bad news that Jackson had died in the night. And I went and I told my husband, and we went and we told our son. And then they went up to the vet to go get him, to bring him back. And we had it was awful. We had a burial for him. And this is an area that where we call the pet cemetery, where we buried him. He was the second dog buried in the backyard there at the tree line. The first dog was a little Chihuahua that we had to put down in 2004 because he was very sick with I can't think of the word, but we had to put him down. So he was buried there. So the next dog was Jackson, and it was September of 2017. My son was very upset. He was crying. I've never seen him that upset. I couldn't stand it. It was awful. And they felt bad, and it was just a very bad situation. And so when we were burying Jackson, you could hear a moaning. It's broad daylight. You could hear like whining coming from the back of the woods, and it's broad daylight. Like something is sad in the woods. Everybody's crying. It was awful. I didn't know what to do for my son. He didn't seem to pull out of this tragedy, and I was really worried. I saw a black lab that they were trying to give away. I asked my husband if we could maybe inquire about this dog. And I asked my son, do you want to go look at this dog? And he said, yes. And he seemed a little bit more lively when we went to Spirit Lake, Idaho. That's the next town over. And this Gunner is his name. Gunner is like 7 months old. And it's a young family that just couldn't keep him. So we brought him home. And Gunner took off. He started taking off, and he wouldn't stay home. So now we've got a problem.
There's something about that name, because mine is named Gunner, and he does the same damn thing.
Does he escape?
Oh, he escaped. He's a 5-year-old beagle, and he is the biggest pain in the butt.
Easy. Real quick, while we got a time out here, real quick, Cindy. There's a couple of questions. I didn't butt in on you. Somebody much earlier, had asked if you had any history of your property checked. You know, if there was any history that may have been on record or something.
Whoops! What happened?
No.
Okay, are we back?
Yes, someone in the chat had asked if you had done a history search of your property.
Yes, I did. So I will tell you really quick about that because I'm still doing some investigating about it. And I'll get to that. Just remind me later. Something I discovered that was really, really creepy about the area. So it's not just about my property. So where I live, it's like 5.5 acres all plotted out. The original owner had bought it in the 70s, and it was like 200 and something acres. Okay. And all throughout the 70s and 80s, it had been, I don't know what year it was plotted out and named the name that it is. There really are no rules there, even though there were supposed to be a couple of like no cows, or I could have like a horse, but no cow, no swine. But I mean, there was not a lot of people there that followed the HOA because it was a lot of the plots were empty. But it's so prior to that owner having that land, really just a pioneer family, I think, owned that area. And so it went untouched for a long time. My land pretty much was raw land when it was purchased, and they just plotted it out. And the history of that land is when the settlers came in, there's a road that they would call the Fur Trapper Indian Road that runs along 41 in North Idaho there. So if you look on a map and look up, I'll just tell you to make my point. Look up Rotherham, Idaho. That goes all the way to Newport Highway. You'll see Highway 41 that runs that way. The history kind of follows itself. Rotherham, Idaho has a history of witches in the 70s, or people practicing like just worshiping like the devil type of things. And then if you keep going, it comes into Spirit Lake. So Spirit Lake back in the day was given that name. It's like the lore just continues itself. Spirit Lake was named Spirit Lake because the Indian chief promised his daughter, who was in love with another brave, he promised her to another tribal member to keep the peace. And the young maiden of the chief and her lover committed suicide over Spirit Lake by hopping into the water, and they drowned. So there's a whole story about that, and that's called Spirit Lake. And then you come into Blanchard, and that mountain is called Hoodoo. There is this is going to sound crazy. So since the dawn of time, the stories go back, according to what I have been told by some of the tribes, the Colville, and by some of the Spokane tribal members, because the tribes used to go to the Spokane River. People used to interact with the Indians, the Spokane tribes. Did y'all hear that, or did we get cut off?
No, we heard you.
You're good.
Pretty
Okay.
much.
Okay, well, because everything kind of went haywire. So back in the day, they did use to, the giants, as I've heard them being called at one time, did come in, and they did at that time interact with some of the tribes off the Spokane River. So there's a dark side that I am still tapping into very carefully right now, and this is in my book that will hopefully come out soon. I went down that pathway of looking from Rotherham into Spirit Lake into Hoodoo Mountain. The French trappers named it, and then it was eventually, okay, sorry, the Indians named it first, and then it was eventually just named, transferred over to Hoodoo. And so Hoodoo is kind of like at the base of the Selkirk mountain range. If you look on a map, it goes into Priest Lake, and it keeps going into parts of Montana, I think, if I'm correct. There is a thing about this area. People have been known to have committed suicide for no reason on this mountain. People have had lost time. That's another paranormal thing that I will get into if I remember. People who have been out hunting have had lost time. They have gotten lost up on the mountain. And then all of a sudden they're like back to reality again, and there's no explanation for having lost time or getting lost. They're just like, what just happened? So there's a lot of factors that go into this area. I was told through a remote viewing situation that there is a ancient energy that lives there and rules over the mountain. And it's not a Sasquatch, it's just a being, an energy, and I don't even know what to call it. It's a force of nature that needs to be respected and reckoned with. I don't know how else to put it. When the pioneers moved in, there's a lot of Indian war history there where some of the pioneers were killed in the area by Mox. Was it Chief Joseph? There's a lot of rich history there. And then if you want to move forward, like in the 1940s, 1950s, when people were settling down at the turn of the century there, just people would talk about trying to build there's a book, it's called, it's talks about the history of Fuji Valley. You can't even check it out from the library, but I was lucky enough to buy 2 copies of it from the original author, just by pure luck. Excuse me. And she told me in her research, she discovered this ancient energy. She also discovered different stories of some of these pioneers that would describe some of these hairy people that they would run into. Or there's a story that is in the 40s and 50s. They wanted to build this church, and they decided to build it in the middle of Fuji Valley. And this church had a lot of problems. It had a lot of turnover of pastors, a lot of turnover of the people that would come in, demonic activity. They said that they felt the church, if the church was built there in the middle of Fuji Valley, that it would make sense to keep the evil at bay. And the description of that in the book was, keep the evil at bay in the cracks of the mountain, or some, it referred to the mountain in a really weird way, like just to keep the evil at bay. And so this guy wrote this really short book, and I don't have it in front of me. So there's a lot that goes to the area. And now in modern day society, it continues, the lore, the problems, so that's probably a long answer, but that should give you an idea.
Very good. Very interesting. Thank you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any other questions, or was that the only one?
Somebody asked what Bear said to you over the telephone when you were talking to him.
So I called him for advice, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but I know he said not to be making calls from the property, which I had done already. And he also said not to give it, like, and like, don't acknowledge it, and it'll just don't feed into it, I guess. And he said I would be okay, and I considered him like a brother, because we had researched out in the field together quite a bit. I haven't talked to him in years, so I hope he's doing okay. So whoever has the question, I guess that would be the best way to answer it.
Okay. That's all I see. Questions right now. So.
Okay. Okay, so the shop was built, my son's dog died. I'm going back to 2017. We got Gunner a lab. He was taken off. We had to build a 1-acre fence in, so we built the fence, and Gunner was still getting out, because when you pull up my driveway, on the left-hand side is the 1 acre that is fenced in, and it's also my front yard. Like, if I open up my front door, we have a doggy door there. You can see into the acreage there. It's about 1 acre, I'm gonna guess, that's fenced in, and we had to make that really quick because we don't tie up our dogs, we don't crate them, we kind of none of our dogs have ever run off, so this was all new. He's a young lab. We've never had a lab. So Gunner, one night, this is 2018. We've had him 6 months now. He's got out a couple of times, and it's spring break. We've had him, I think, from September. It's 2018 now. It's spring break, so we've had him, 6 months? September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, like 6 months, 7 months. My husband was gone on a business trip, and it was March 31st. That's spring break going into April. This is how I remember all these things. My son was in our toy hauler RV with some of his friends. Now, my husband is still a private investigator. He was gone on a case in Montana, and I was audio recording. I was watching TV in our living room, which is a different part of the house now because we've converted our drive-through. I'm sorry, we made our garage into a like a big family living room today. But at that time in 2018, we were still in the actual former living room, and it was it was spring break. It was 12:30 a.m. and I was going to bed, and I remember to put out my audio recorder. I put it on the front steps, the actual rail, okay? And this is inside of the fenced in yard. I thought I closed the doggy door, but I guess I didn't. I checked on the kids and I said, don't be coming into the house all night long unless, if you got to go to the bathroom, do it. But don't leave the RV. I'm going to bed. Now, these kids up in North Idaho, they do carry rifles around with them. It's not a big deal. That's just the way of life. It's still cold out in the 20s. These kids will go from my house to their friend's house, like over that mountain, down that road at 10 o'clock at night on a four-wheeler in a blizzard. Like these are things I had to learn to get used to. And I never really did. And I was stressed out all the time. So on this one night, I checked on him, told him don't be coming in and out. And I went to bed. The next thing I know, Gunner must have gone out, and he ran back in and he hops on the bed, and I remember he was wet, and I'm thinking, what the hell, dog? And I got up. I think I got up and I went to go check. I could have closed the doggy door. I don't know. I don't remember right now because my mind isn't the same what it used to be. The next morning when I woke up, I made coffee. I started playing the audio recorder. Excuse me. Within 5 minutes of playing it, I could hear a dog barking, and it's far off in the distance. I'm like, whose dog is that? And then I hear like just a pissed off growl, roar, and then it erupts. And then I realized that's our dog, Gunner. And I play it like 3 or 4 more times. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? And I shut it off. Excuse me. I opened up the front door. I think I looked at the doggy door. I don't know if I was like, oh shit, I didn't close it. I don't remember that. I remember going outside and I knew exactly where he was standing. I walked to the corner. So now it's like 9 a.m. It's daylight out. It's, still as cold. The kids are still in the RV. I'm like, oh my God. I walk to that corner. Now, this is the edge of my property where the fence goes. And so I'm standing here looking at the fence. At the bottom of the fence, Gunner had dug this hole in the night. And he had barked, and whatever had made that noise was across the street. And the kids had come in the day before, and they said, Mom, there's something across the street and it sounds like a dragon breathing. I'm like, what? They said, yeah, there's something is heavy breathing out there. And I'm like, what? Like, this is normal stuff that happens. I went outside and I didn't hear anything. And so I told the kids, okay, well, stay in the RV. Y'all are not going to be riding the four-wheelers. And they're like, oh, come on. I'm like, no, you're not. You stay on this freaking property. Don't ask me again, or your friends are going to go home. Like I was getting very upset with my son. So that was when I went inside when I was watching TV, and I went to bed. And when Gunner came in, and then I, the next morning, when I heard that sound, I went to the corner of the property there's a big game trail that moose go through on the other side of that fence, and they will travel through there, and then it forks off and it goes up the mountain. So I'm looking at this game trail. I'm looking at the RV 2 acres over where the kids are in, and I'm thinking, I'm looking at Gunner. He is nowhere. Normally, Gunner would have followed me through the woods. He did not follow me. He was still on the porch. I'm looking at this big hole he dug, and then I was mad because whatever was growling at him, that was not okay. It was very bad. It was very aggressive, and it sounded like I was going to kill him. I went back in the house. I got his leash and his collar. I put it on him, and I went outside of the fence, and I walked the length of the fence. I passed the RV. I walked across the road into that property where I knew a dragon was sleeping. This rogue Sasquatch that was going through, I would be told later through a remote viewing episode, that something was just traveling through there, and it was not part of the regular clan that was there. And it was just taking some time out there, and it was just not happy with my dog, and it let it be known. I said, "This is Gunner," across the road. I was standing in the clearing, and I said, "You do not touch him. You don't touch my house. This is my property. This is," now I'm standing on someone else's land, but I'm saying this is my property. That is my property over there. Then I walked to the road, and I walked on the outside of the fence by the road, and I walked to where Gunner had been digging, and I could feel like I was being watched. And Gunner, I could barely get him to go down the driveway and into the road, and he was shaking up a storm. So I'm like, okay, that's crazy. So I went back to the house, and life went on, and I would continue to get other amazing audios, and my son just continued. Like, I could do a whole other show with you guys about this. I'm looking at the time, it's 8:46. This is really when it all just started. The things started to go haywire with the things that my son would encounter. And the kids came in later that day, and I said, "This is why I did not want y'all to be on the four-wheelers at night." And he had one friend there that was sleeping with him, and he was a little, he told me his mother said I was crazy and there is no Sasquatch. And he said, "My mom says you're crazy." And I'm like, well, I've been called worse. So I played the audio, and their eyes got really big. And the kids spent the night there another night, but that kid had to call his mom to come and get him. And I was sure she was going to call me and say, "You scared my son, blah, blah, blah." She never did, ever say anything about that day. As a matter of fact, I think he had peed the bed or something. I don't really remember. Anyway, so she came and got him, and he didn't stay for that night. So that's 2018 when that happened. And a lot more crazy things have happened to my son and to me. He has been camping, and he has seen things and heard things that you would just not believe. I am thinking the year was 2019. I'm trying to think. My son was 15, let's see, 14, 15, 2018 or so. He asked if he could go camping. So now he's 15. He's a young man. He asked if he could go camping alone. Well, of course, my husband said yes. I'm like, "Are you crazy? Like, no, he can't. It's not safe out there." My husband's like, "Cindy," he's been like, "Really? We're not having this discussion." he asked if he could sleep on this state land, and my husband said no. My husband wants to know longitude, latitude, where he's going to be. And there was a place where he always camped out. It was 1.5 miles going up the mountain, and that was where we said he could camp. So he left to camp for the night. I got no sleep. The following morning, when he came home, sure enough, something happened, and his eyes were wide-eyed, and he gave up himself right away. He had disobeyed us, and he had gone to the state land where we said he could not go. I have never been to this area prior at that time. I said, what happened? And he said, Mom, I was in my tent and I heard something something heavy walking, and I'm like, okay, so on 2 legs? He said, yeah, but it was walking like side to side. I'm like, what? Like, you know, how you hear something walking like this? Or the way he described it was weird. So he said something was walking towards his tent, and then it made a sound. Now I'm thinking Sasquatch. And he's like, it screeched at me. I'm like, it screeched? Like, what do you mean? And he said, it sounded like a pterodactyl. I'm like, what? 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 And I'm like, okay, Justin, let's start over. He told me the story again, 1, 2, 3 times. Now he's getting annoyed. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So it came up to his tent, it went around the tent, and it screeched, and then it walked off, and then it screeched as it left. And I'm like, why didn't you come home? He said it was the most terrified he has ever been, but he fell asleep. So these are the kinds of encounters that my son has had, and he continues to have to this day. And I just had to make peace with it. I had to really discern and get good with that. A lot more things have happened that are unbelievable.
Excuse
I have
me,
stories.
Cindy. Excuse me. I just wanted to ask, about the pterodactyl sound. Did you do any searches to see if there were any other pterodactyl reports in your area or around Idaho? Because I know there have been throughout the U.S., including right around where I live also.
Where do you live?
Western Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. I mean, if I may ask, sorry.
Okay.
Yes. Years later, I would get other reports. So I don't think we punished him. He learned his lesson, but that would not be the last of the weird things that would happen to him. Years later, there was a guy that contacted me on Facebook, because everybody now, knows me in the area. There's that Bigfoot lady, or whatever. Some people think I'm crazy, other people don't. I have a lot of people that I actually work with, even being down here in Texas. I continue to get reports now, all the time. So this one guy contacted me, and he said he wanted to talk with me, but he didn't want to do it on the phone or on Facebook Messenger. I said, okay, well, do you want to meet up like at a local public restaurant? He's like, yes. And so we did get into some discussion on Facebook Messenger, even though he said he did not want to do that. And it turns out this guy is a professional guide. He's a professional tracker. His history is him and his wife. They have 2 kids. They lived in Blanchard, Idaho. But prior to working there, which the years were 2015 to 2017, he said his background is he worked ranches, and then he'd go to the next ranch. Excuse me. He worked in Nevada, he worked in Colorado over ranches, and he had dealt with Sasquatch in the past. So I will skip that part of the story, but he said that if we could meet up, we did meet up. He asked if he could bring his wife and daughter. He ended up bringing his daughter, not his wife. His wife is sick and couldn't come. I got to the restaurant first, and he, I think this was 2021. It was cold out, I remember, and my husband was like, yeah, you'll be fine. There was something about this man that, and it was the way he carried.
You're freezing up. Oh, you're muted, Jerry.
I don't want to get yelled at for crinkling foil again. I was saying, Cindy, if you can hear us, we lost you. On it.
Jerry, did she send you any of her stuff earlier?
Yeah, I've got 2 audio clips and a photo.
Okay.
There she's back.
Am I back? Okay. So let me get through with this. Or can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So he arrived at the restaurant. Did y'all hear that I was supposed to meet with this rancher guy?
Yeah.
Okay. So his history, he had worked in Nevada and Colorado. So his family moved on to this ranch in the Hoodoo Valley area. So I live, let's see, I live on the south part of Hoodoo, I think, and he lived on the the west side of Hoodoo Mountain. So they moved on to this historic ranch that was a pioneer founding family of the area. Probably 1,000 acres at that time. And the whole family had encounters with Sasquatch. His wife saw a pterodactyl thunderbird, something flying above Hoodoo Mountain one day. The family had a lot of other encounters with Sasquatch. And he said that he found nests up in the area on the ground, and he sent me pictures of that up on Hoodoo Mountain. And he told me some of the crazy encounters that his family had. And he said that he worked there for like 2 years, and that when he left that area, he was afraid for his family's life. And when I met him, when he walked into the restaurant, he was your typical cowboy. He had the kerchief around his neck. He was windblown. He looked like, he had on his Carhartts, his boots. When he shook my hand, he looked me straight in the eye. His daughter was immaculate with her manners. She was very engaged in the conversation when he was describing me their life there on the ranch. He said that one day he saw a clan of Sasquatch tracks going up the mountain, and he wanted to track them. So he told his wife he was going to go check on it, and the next day he went to the area, which went into a set of woods, and it came out on the other side, which was state land, and it kept going. So this clan was definitely migrating somewhere. So the next morning when he was on his way, he followed the tracks to the tree line, and he bent down to tie his shoe. And he said when he looked up, he still is kneeling down. There was 2 male Sasquatches that had come, and they were following their family. Excuse me. And he said he's just like, okay. He's like looking up. One looked down at him. and it kind of made a noise, and then they went into the set of woods and they went on their way, and he said it took him a minute to decide if he was going to continue on, because apparently the owner of the ranch had told him not to go up in that area. So he went ahead and went in. He had a watch on. When he came out on the other side, he went in at 9:50 a.m. and he said, I swear I was only 20 or 25 minutes in my reality, but when I came out on the other side, his equipment stopped working. His watch said 4:50 p.m.
Wow.
So he had lost time somewhere, somehow, and he was like, oh my gosh, he knew his wife was going to be worried. He ran back through the woods, I'm assuming, and he came out on the other side, and his boss, the owner of the property, the old guy, as he puts it, was in his truck waiting for him. And he said, I told you not to go up into those woods. And he said he got into his truck, and he looked at him and he said, what's up there anyway? And the guy just looked at him and took him back to his home, and he described to his wife what happened. So yes, his wife and daughter have seen a cinnamon colored Sasquatch come out of the woods one night, and it just came out of the woods. They're standing there. There's a pond. There's old cars there from, time gone by. And it came out of the woods, and it just went back in the woods. And then another time they saw a flying saucer up. Like, I've got UFO stories too that go with this. And then she saw the pterodactyl or the thunderbird, and then he had his other encounters. And then after that, he met another neighbor that had lost time as well, but I don't know that story. And 2017, he had to leave the property. I don't know why, but he said that the two daughters that lived there, they were older, probably older than me. And I'm sorry, y'all hear a motorcycle pulling in. I don't know if he was let go or what, but he left that job and he ended up moving his family. And he said he was very worried about his family's life because of another job that he had been hired to do. He was hired by the park rangers in North California to track a missing mom and daughter. And he said that this guy was a park ranger and friends with him. So we're in the restaurant. I recorded him, and his daughter was very engaged in everything her father had to say. And it was getting late. We're probably there 2 hours, and he put his hand down and he said, can you stop recording? I'm like, yeah. So I turned it off, and then he said, I've got another story for you, but I'll tell you outside. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's cold. So we went outside, and that was when he told me that prior to moving to Blanchard, he was hired, which he had been hired by the Park Forest Service before, and he was actually friends with this one guy, and he said the pay was usually $500, and because he's such a great tracker, he said he would be hired sometimes to do some illegal hunting. Let's just put it to you that way. I'm like, okay. And he said, what I'm going to tell you next, like, you can't give locations of what I'm telling you. I'm like, okay. He said that this park ranger called him and said that they needed help tracking a missing mother and daughter or something. So he takes the job, assuming it's going to be $500. He shows up to North California at the location. He says when he arrives, there's two other guys there, and they're decked out in like military, like military gear, weapons and all this stuff. And he's like, what's going on? So they tell him the basic facts. we're going to go looking for a bear. And he's like, a bear, like, you know, okay, why are these guys dressed like this? And he says there's a mother and daughter that are missing, and he's like, okay, and then he tells them the pay is 5,000. Excuse me? He says the pay is 5,000. He's like, what are we? Pardon me. What am I tracking? And he says, you know, let's just go find the trail. So they go, they find the trail where these other two guys, where they couldn't find it. They find a car. The windshield had been pulled back. The glass was not broken. The windshield had been pulled back, like the whole glass and everything. They end up coming, they find the trail. They end up at this cave or something. There's glass, there's blood, so something had been dragged in there. The two guys and him and the park ranger had gone there on horseback, if I'm thinking correctly. The two guys that were dressed out, one was kind of really rough with him and really, he was asking too many questions, or the guy said something and he's just like looking at him, like trying to figure out like why, you know, and his friend, the park ranger, like looks at him and just says, well, we're hunting a bear or something. There's a missing mother and daughter. So he's just trying to figure out 2 and 2. So they get to this area here, the cave or whatever it was, and they said, this is where you guys turn back and go back to the horse trailer, and whatever you hear, you do not come back. He said, I was paid, so I was good. I was glad to get out of there because he knew something wasn't right. So they were going back, and then he said somewhere halfway back, maybe a couple of miles out, they heard, he said, nothing scares me, okay? But when my horse is scared, that is when I need to know something's not right here. And he said that they heard weapons going off and they heard roaring. He said, Cindy, that was a giant. Like, you think of the worst Sasquatch roar, and then he heard gunners where he had been barking, and he knew that story. He said, like, it made that look like kindergarten. I'm like, oh my gosh, seriously? He said, my horse's ears went down. He whipped around. Him and the park ranger ran. Their horses ran all the way back to the horse trailer. He said 6 months later, his park ranger friend was dead. And he found the story on the internet. The story was at the location he told me. He said that it was basically an X-file. The story was not told the way it should have been told. And it really freaked him out because now he was sure that his family would be next. And so then he went to go work that ranch job. And then when that didn't work out, when all the funky things, you know, happened there with all the UFO encounters, the pterodactyl, they found, you know, the Sasquatch on the property, and then his, you know, lost time, just everything. He said it was too much. So, they moved, and he said, we bought a house way out in the country. I need a satellite phone. And he showed me, he had his satellite phone with him and a cell phone. I'm like, oh, like, everything about him was real. Everything about him from where I was sitting, or standing outside, I was just like, I could not really, like, what else are you going to tell me? So we became friends. We stayed in contact. I had another person contact me who lives in Hoodoo. He's a real estate agent. He has lived there for a couple of years now. 2 Octobers ago, or 3 Octobers ago, my friend who's a real estate agent was hunting in this one area, and you have to park your car. It's on private land, but it's like the public, it's like paper land where they harvest the trees. He was roared and chased out of this area, and this is a guy who is a manly man. Both of these guys are. And he said and he has had Sasquatch encounters in Oregon also, so this was nothing new at all. And he was chased out of that area. So now I've got a real estate agent friend who lives on the backside of Hoodoo Mountain. And it borders where this guy worked as a rancher. Okay. So there's an area there that you can't go in unless you know a back way in because of the creek that goes well, I almost said the creek, but I'm not going to say it. So last October, let me see, was it last year or the year before? I brought him over to my house, both of these guys, because I wanted them to meet each other. And so we sat down and we had a really crazy discussion of just everything that's happened to them, to me, over the years in that area. And we continue to work together with our own lives and the things that are happening in that area. And my son continues to have encounters. Just last month, he was bear hunting. He was up on Hoodoo Mountain, but he came up from the backside and he went up the mountain. He parked his truck. He hit it because where he went, it was going to be going down a steep valley, and then he would be navigating his way. You can't even take a four-wheeler in there because it's too thick. My son said just a couple of like a month ago when he was bear hunting, October or November, excuse me, he said, Mom, I forgot what weapon it is. It could kill an elephant, basically. A 40 or a 50, I don't know. I don't remember. He said, Mom, this area here, I was really, I wasn't sure of to go in this area, but he continued his way in. And he said when he got to this one area, he heard this very close, bam, just bam, like, get out. And he was like, oh crap, because this has happened to him multiple times. And he's like, man, I just want to go hunting like without that happening to me. So now this is happening to him again. He continues on, and he stops to take a break to drink and to eat a snack. And he says he looks down and he sees this weird thing, and he picks it up, and he's like, he drops it because it still is warm. And he looks up and he sees this stump, and there's blood all over it, and there's hair. And he was assuming it was deer, but he didn't tell me he saw like body parts. But he said he looked down and he picked up, I forgot it's part of the throat of the deer. And I forgot what it's called, but it was still warm. And he said he was just creeped out right away. And then he heard like turkeys gobbling, like making that, very close in the woods. And then all of a sudden he heard like the turkey being murdered, and it was like right there in front of him. And he was like, oh my gosh. So he started backing up, and he knew the only way out of there was to go back to the area where he saw the kill, to where he heard the loud, thrashing, because he knows that they are there, and he knows he needs to leave the area, but he didn't leave right away. So now he's backtracking, and he is just like, oh my God, why does this keep happening? So now he is going back to his truck, and right when, you know, he's feeling a little bit more safer now, he heard another roar, or like, I mean, not a roar, but like another bam. And he's like, this is unbelievable. Like, I just want to go hunting without dealing with this. And he said he looked down and there was like this weird glyph on the ground with, and he sent me a picture, but I didn't think it was a great picture. To me, it just looked like logs, like a mess. But he said, no, no, Mom, like it caught my attention. And then he thought, he looked up because he's in the woods. He looked up and there's this huge nest up there. He said, I could crawl in it. And I said, dang, really? And I said, did you take a picture? He's like, hell no, I was just trying to get to the truck. And I kind of laughed because now, you know, these stories are not a big deal. And he said that, I asked him, do you think that was an eagle's nest? And he said, I don't think so. But he said he left some game cameras up there and he needs to go back and get them. But he just got the hell out of Dodge. And that was his latest thing that happened to him up there in the mountains. And I asked him a couple of weeks ago, because, you know, now there's a lot of snow up there. I said, did you go get your trail cams? And he's like, no, I didn't. So, you know, I'm so over it, you know, like, and now my son, he's getting into this job called, he's a framer, you know, he's even owned his own company for a year. And now he, you know, he's tired of framing. He wants to get into what they call timber cruising or something. And I'm like, you're going to be in the woods 21 days doing that job. And this could be anywhere in Oregon. This could be Washington. It could be North California. He said he's going to get hired on and they're going to train him. And then he will be in the woods like 21 days at a time. And this, he can do it. He's lived out there for, you know, days at a time. And then he'll get to come home. And I am like, are you serious? Like, are you sure you want to do that? You know, I'm just like, so anyway, so that's where we're at today. Some other things have happened in 2021. I learned to sage the property, to protect the property. I learned to protect myself when I get out. I don't go out and research now. Everything I do, everyone I'm associated with, we're pretty much of the same mindset. I'm not out here to prove anything, or, you know, we're here to I'm past the researching stage. I'm past the howls, the knocks, you know, I'm past all of that. A lot of people that I was associated with are not happy that I have gone this way. Now they're coming to me and saying, so this happened to me and it's something woo related. And I'm like, okay, so I don't take anything. I don't take bones unless it's meant. I don't take anything unless it's meant like as a gift. We have certain protocol now. It's I'm past the, you know, wanting to bang on trees, wanting to past all that. Now it's about communicating with them, learning what this next stage is about. And my whole family has had just a lot of things happen. I have said this over and over, 10 people can be out in the woods and 2 people can have one experience and the rest can have a whole other different experience. And understanding. So just if I tell you something that's happened to me and someone says, I don't remember it that way, that's because you can't see what I can see, or you didn't hear it was meant for me. And people don't understand that concept because I skipped over a lot of woo things because obviously of the time. One of the things that I discovered in 2017 was at Christmas time, we took a picture. It was my older son, his girlfriend, she's a photographer. It was my husband, me, and my younger son. Keep in mind, you know, 2017 May was when it was the turning point for me, because they slept in my house, and that was just when I said, okay, bring it on. I want to know more. And that winter at Christmas, we took a photo like out in the road. And it's a really cool looking photo because we had like on our hunting gear and our rifles and our weapons, and like someone had an AR standing there like that, and someone else had another rifle. I don't know whose idea that was. My older son's girlfriend, Rochelle, put up her tripod and set the timer, and we took the photo. Someone contacted me, and I said, hey, Merry Christmas on Facebook. And a friend of mine who is a shaman contacted me and said, hey, there's a wolf above your head. I'm like, what are you talking about? Basically, in the photo are things in the trees, and there's this wolf above my head. I didn't see it right away. I saw it months later. So the more I accepted this, the more I started seeing things, the more I started walking like with one foot in this reality and one foot in this other reality. And that's where I'm at today, with just more of it's normal now. I have completely just flipped the switch of where I started and where I live, everything that's happened to us. It's a continuous journey of discernment that you have to be on your game all the time. Not to say that it's an awful place to live, but I just feel like sometimes like I just attract, like, why do you want to mess with me, spirit? My younger son and his girlfriend in 2017. No, I'm sorry, 2021. Excuse me. My husband and me. My husband said, I'm retiring. Let's hit the road. I was not on board for that in the beginning, but we had a brand new toy hauler, and it was not the toy hauler that I was describing in 2017. We traded that one in for the one that we got in 2021, I believe. Or anyway, so that year, that October, is when me and my husband hit the road from October. And he loaded up his Harley in the back. We loaded up the dogs, and we hit the road, and we do this every year. But I would find out 2 years later from my son what happened to them when we left. And it really upset me. And I'm still worried about it today because I'm not there. And he's not really on board with this topic of the whole native research thing, respect. I have been told by people who have remote viewed my property that, and also by some of the other people that I work with, that's his journey. He is a lot more intuitive than I am. He will have to decide for himself in life if he wants to accept. One of us has our own journey to go on, and you make your own reality happen. You have to figure out which road you're going to go down. And so basically what happened is that his fiance and him were asleep in bed one night, and she was awoken. And this is probably the worst of everything, because now we're talking evil stuff here. Like nothing like this has ever happened to me. She heard something hit the house, and like it just went the whole side of where they sleep, where the house was slapped, where my husband was sleeping. They were in our bed. They sleep in the master bedroom. She heard her grandfather, who had died, asking her to come outside. Can you come outside? And she's like, she knew right away it was not her grandfather trying to entice her to come outside. Yeah. And she's trying to wake up my son, and he's not waking up, and he's a light sleeper. And so something was trying to lure her outside. And then my son had a dream about a woman. So if you go down the hallway and open up the sliding glass door, in his dream, he is standing there where I have stood, where I have seen other things happen. In his dream, he sees a lady in the pet center.
Oh boy.
A white lace gown. It's ripped, and she is sitting in the tree, and she's just like looking at him, like with a vile look, and she's wanting him to come outside. And he says he wakes up from this dream, and he described the dress. It was torn, it was lace, and it was like the pioneer days. Now, you want to creep out, really be creeped out? One day, he said, he came home, and his girlfriend said, "Babe, I want to show you something." She had been given a dress by her grandmother. She put it on to model it for him. She came down the hallway, and he just said, "Where'd you get that dress?" And she's like, "Excuse me, that's not what she was expecting. It's a beautiful white dress." He said, "Go take it off right now." She's like, he said the dress that she had on was the exact same dress that that lady in his dream had, but it was not ripped or anything.
Yeah.
And they started praying. His girlfriend heard the story, and after that, they were just just praying. And so I don't know why he didn't tell me that. You know, that right there, even right now, telling the story just really makes me angry. So I asked some friends to go over and start praying over the property. I had a lot of people praying remotely and praying for the property. So, not everything is Sasquatch. I've been in my hot tub, and I've seen things. Like one time I was in my hot tub outside, and this was a couple of years ago. I saw blue flash in the woods. I've seen flashes in the woods. Other people have seen Sasquatch on my property. There was a blue, like a blue flash, and it was a beautiful blue. And I remember in my head, I saw like a light Sasquatch with blue eyes, and I stood up. This happened like in 2 minutes. I saw the flash, I saw the vision, and I stood up. And I got out and I put my robe on, and I was standing there, and it was cold. It was summertime, but it's cold up there at night in summer, like in the 50s. And I was standing there, and I was looking in the woods, and I saw nothing. And then I went inside, and I contacted my friend, and she said, yeah, there are some, I've heard of reports of some albino Sasquatches, or lighter with blue eyes. And I was like, well, why was I shown that? So there's a lot of things that have happened. So now I hear things all the time, and there's nothing there. I can see things in photos that a lot of people, can't see. I try to live a high vibrational life, which means, you just, I see things differently. I practice my life differently, but I mean, I'm a human too. I have learned more about my my lineage. So now we spend half the year in Texas and half the year in Idaho, and I just continue to hear these stories. And I'm at that point too where I want to sell my property before my kids live there and have kids, and then what? Or do we stay there and continue? I don't want to make it sound like it's evil, but I've tapped into this area into. I had a UFO encounter that happened as well. Excuse me. They've howled at me inside the house at 2:20 a.m. Me and my husband, they woke us up one night. This was 2019. I think like March. I don't remember. Maybe it was 2020. But literally, we were woken up and at 2:20 a.m. and was like, what the hell was that? And my husband's like, well, that wasn't the dogs. And he's like, go tell him to be quiet. I'm like, what? I mean, there's nobody, and there's no howling anymore. So I'm a light sleeper. So 3 hours later, I woke up at 5:15 a.m. And so now my son is driving. He's working. He leaves at 5:50 a.m. Right after he left, I had let the dogs out. Was it right before? No, I'm sorry. It was right when I woke up. He was still getting dressed. I banged on his door. I'm like, hey, wake up. I went to go make the coffee. I opened up the front door. It's super dark outside. I'm tired because I haven't had any sleep. And up there, the truckers, the loggers will work up there when it's up on the mountain, and I can see the lights up there. So when I opened up the door, I had my Malamute went outside. So did Gunner. So did my Australian Shepherd. And I saw the lights on the mountain. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I saw this light go up, and it started flying around. It was a freaking UFO. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I grabbed my phone and I closed the door and I stepped out on the front porch. And my Malamute, doesn't bark. Anyone who knows huskies go woof, woof. They don't bark. So I closed the door and I'm standing on the front porch and I'm trying to record, and I'm hearing something being pelted at me from the left. It's pine cones. I realize, so I'm filming, they're throwing pine cones at me, and I'm like, I'm not afraid. I'm like, why are you guys throwing pine cones at me? I'm assuming it's the juveniles. And my dog is, I'm looking at my dog and the other dogs, and then the Gunner goes off in the dark, and excuse me, I say, stay the F over there, because I realize they're trying to warn me about something. And then they throw a pine cone or a stone and it hits my truck. So I have all this on video, and I say, stay over there, and then you can hear me say, I'm just looking, I'm just trying to film this, like, why are you guys, like, don't be hitting my truck. And then you can hear a stick break. It's like they're having a fit in the woods. And then I end up going inside, and I never figured out what that was about. I don't know why they woke us up at 2:20 a.m. I don't know why they were having a fit that I was out there with that UFO. I mean, my life sounds crazy, right? Anyway, I could go on and on, y'all, but it is 9:30, and I'm sure y'all are like, oh my God, shut up.
It's 10:30 here.
Oh, crap. Well, all you had to do was say, shut up.
Yeah, we got that East Coast time,
No, you have fascinating stories, Cindy, and I know you and I have chatted a little bit online through Facebook, and I've heard quite a bit of you, through Kumbo and Bear, all their old stories.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Boykin Springs had been a popular spot. It still does. I know I regret giving out locations, but I was not the first one to do that. So
yeah,
don't hit the messenger. And just so today, what is happening is I totally am 100%. Igor Berstov has been on my property. He has witnessed things. I had a team. It was for a short time. They have one of my ex-teammates. She's experienced a lot of the same things. They have their own team now. It's called Legend. Oh my gosh, how could I have forgotten? Anyway, I'm so sorry I forgot your name, Angelique, the name of your team. Anyway, so they legendary. Oh my gosh, I just totally spaced out their team name. Anyway, so I've had a lot of people remote view my property has been remote viewed. I was home this last year. I went home for 2 months. And a lady from Australia remote viewed my property, and she said, this was 2 years ago, she said, you're going to come to a point to where you're going to run into government officials, and I did. I ran into Idaho Fish and Game. In all the years I've lived up there, I've never seen Idaho Fish and Game up there on the mountain. But they were in the area, and I was hearing from other people who were posting on the local board that they were running into maybe 1 or 2 posts, not like a lot. But I was hearing through friends that were up on the mountain that, hey, Idaho Fish and Game is up there. Now I have access to some of the gates that are closed because the guy the rancher, the professional tracker, knows the person who handles the gates up there. So he said, go to this location. You can go around the gate. Like, I think you can even go underneath the gate with your 4-wheeler, because my 4-wheeler is a 400. I don't think a 5 or 600 could make it under there, maybe. So he gave me access to some of these points. And in March, I went to this one area where we found these massive structures, like a village of structures, and I've taken photos, and you can see things in these photos. I'm standing inside the structure. Again, I did not ask to go inside this structure, and I did. In the photo, you can see a Sasquatch that's probably like 9 feet tall, and it's looking down on me, like, and I'm standing underneath the structure. I'm doing this, and my friend Angelique took a picture. In that photo, I don't even know why I don't talk about this a lot, because I'm not the one who found it. You can see a Sasquatch up there, and it's doing something. It's looking down on me, and I'm like, hey, inside the structure. We got very ill. Me and her got very, very ill. This was October of 2022, because we spoke in Yakima, Washington, and we were really scared that we were going to be sick to speak at this conference. But we were okay, thank God. But I found out later through remote viewing, plus, that's right by my house. I have to, like, I've been in this area 1,000 times, but I never stopped to go down the middle of this 400 acres. We always did this loop around it. What we discovered inside that area is there's a lot of portals. There is massive structures, massive game trails that go through there. And I have been studying, that's my main research area. And in the beginning, we thought that was a bad place, but it's not. It's a wonderful place. I have been there many times. But I did run into Idaho Fish and Game. There's a road that goes through this area, and I took my 4-wheeler through there, and when I came out through the end, there was Fish and Game, like, right there. I couldn't see them because when you come out, they were like plastered right by the forest, by the tree line. And I was like, and we exchanged. I'm like, oh crap, he scared me. And he said they were just out there making the rounds, picking up garbage, writing tickets for people going around gates. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, what's in there? I'm like, what do you mean what's in there? Like, I'm riding through there. I'm riding through this area. And then this other gentleman came on a side-by-side. So I was like, okay, well, I'll see you later. And that was just this past May. Then I came home, and then I called my friend, and I said, oh my God, I ran into Idaho Fish and Game. So, I mean, so to this day, I don't know if I want to stay on that property. I don't know, because now I don't live there, because when I go home, I live in my toy hauler, because it's massive. It's 40 feet. It's house on wheels. My kids still live in the house, and we hit the road every winter. So that's why I'm here in East Texas. So since I have been here in East Texas, I've had a lot of things happen here because I'm out by Lake Tawakoni. And just today, I went to go check out some tracks by Lake. Well, anyway, this lake not far away, and my friend's report, Robin. I don't know if she's watching, but she
she was in here earlier, but
yeah,
she was tired.
Yeah. So I didn't really, it's in a locked gate area, so I just took some more footage. I really couldn't catch them because there was people working at the dock, and it's a private residence. I mean private, like where they're selling lots. And so I just and it's cold, it's like 40 something degrees, so I'm not going to waste my casting material. So I was doing that earlier today, and I took some footage so I can give to Dan Nadrello. He was talking with Robin about the trackway she found. I mean, the report that she got. So, but today she had to go to the dentist. So I said I would go check it out today, but I didn't get very far to investigate, more than an hour, because there was those two people there working at the dock, but then they left. But there was a lady. There was only one house way back there. There was a car driving by, and I just thought, okay, I'm not going to hang out here. I'm going to go. It's not like Idaho, where I have a lot more up in the mountains. So, so that's what I was doing today. And I've been back to some of the national forest here. We are planning on having a camp out, a private camp out at Boykin Springs here this spring. So, yeah. So I mean, so that's kind of where we're at. My son calls me from time to time. Hey, Mom, I'm outside. They're going off or whatever. And so I stopped recording because and I'm so sorry. I've been talking. You never could play anything. I don't know if you can, if it's too late or whatever, but.
Whenever.
Do you want to do a part 3?
I don't know. I mean, that's pretty much it. I've skipped over a lot of things. We could do a show just on the audios. You could play the audios. I've got like 7 audios. Do you want to play the one that you have, or do you want to do that for another time?
2 of them. There's 2 of them. I'll go ahead and play that real quick. Yeah. I think this is the moaning Sasquatch or whatever.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Can you hear it?
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm just going to replay. Pretty interesting. I'll load the other one up here real quick.
So that one was taken the morning of February, Valentine's Day, the 14th, 2019, because again, my son was that 2019? Crap, now I can't remember what year it was. Anyway, I just dropped him off to be picked up to go to work, and then I had just gotten home and I got out of my car and I heard it going off, so I grabbed my phone and I recorded that. So Tobe Johnson did that cleanup of that from the original. You'll hear them whistling back and forth. That was what he caught. David Ellis actually has a better version of that he's cleaned. Excuse me, that he's cleaned up, but I can't play it yet because it's going to be for my book, because in the book it's going to have a QR code that the reader can follow and then hit the QR code, and then you'll hear that audio in there, but it's cleaned up so much better. Yeah. So, and then you have another audio.
Yep. It's ready to go.
So this, okay, so this one, let me just explain. It was,
Sure.
I don't know, it was what year it was. It was after 2017, and I had just come home from work. Again, I put my audio recorder out in the backyard. This was around the time that my neighbor had said what he saw. It sounded like a dog man. This is the audio that I got around that time frame. It's 11 o'clock at night, and you'll hear the chipmunks going off, predator, and then you'll hear that canine, whatever it is. I don't know.
Okay.
Hell.
That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Northwest Native Tracker asks, what is the elevation of your property?
What's the elevation of your property?
I don't know. I don't know.
Hell.
Wow, something's upset.
Yeah.
Catherine said her cat just went under the bed.
And
My
Oh,
dogs
really?
don't ever react to any of this stuff. I have they must hear stuff outside, and at this point, they don't care. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, my
Yeah.
dog out and she's huddled up against my chair here.
Here's
I
something
seen her
interesting
moving
here.
around back there earlier.
Yeah.
So the last recording sounds a lot like our really big dog man here, Northwest Tracker saying.
Hey, Griff.
They have that funny snappish start to their howl.
Yeah, I've never heard anything like that. So I don't know what that is. I was told that there is a dogman there. There are also other dogman sightings in the area. I know one night I was again in my hot tub. No, I'm sorry. I was sleeping outside. I was doing this new thing. I was trying to not be afraid. And we put up a tent. My husband put up a tent in the woods, and I was asleep or trying to go to sleep, and I heard the canine roar, but not like that. And I went inside the house. I couldn't do it. But I mean, I have slept outside, but there was one night I tried, and I was like, really? Another thing is I hear a lot of mechanical noises at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. like that make no sense. You know, no one's out there working. So I'm going to tell you something that I have never said on a podcast. I was talking with someone because we were going over everything, just everything. I was told there are ETs on my property. There are two portals. I've had people walk my property and they can feel the land spirits that they pushed away. We did a cleansing of the property. Someone asked me once, what do you mean you did a cleansing? Like they got mad at me. They were actually Native American, and I was like, somehow they said, who are you to tell them they have to leave? I'm like, what are you talking about? So I'm not really sure why they got upset, because my friends came over and we did sound bowls, and we had activity. They were doing the dowsing rods that were they were pinging their dowsing rods and making vibrational noises with that, and also with the sound bowls. And this girl walked my whole property, and she's into I don't know how to put it. She was telling me about what she was picking up on, and then my other research partner came over, and the next day we found a spiral. I didn't. This other girl did. She found a spiral drawn into the dirt. Now we have a tractor, and this was not made by a tractor, because this was it looked like a big hand just went like this in the dirt, and it made a spiral. And that was the same day that we just started working on each other, saging each other, just talking about everything that was happening. The vibrations were high. The company was good. Everything was of pure intent. And my friend says, don't look now, but over there we have 2 or 3, we have some tree peekers. And of course I went like that. I just kind of went like that, and I could see them. They were looking behind a tree, and I've got pictures of them, but they're one of those blob photos, but I can show them to the same people and not say anything, and they can see things in these photos. So that's just kind of my life now. So much more has happened, and I just so I have a book coming out, but we've taken 2 years to edit it because I'm busy all the time. She's busy all the time. And February, hopefully it'll be done, and then I guess when I know more, it'll be released. And I don't know what the title is going to be called yet, because it's basically tells the story of what I've told you all. I talk about when I'm a child, my father, relationships, because this is what it's all about, relationships with each other, how you go out and research what your reality is, what kind of person you are. Do you want to go out? Because if I go out, like, if there's 3 of us that think the same, like, okay, I just want to communicate with them more. Like I have a tree on my property. I mean, there's 5 stumps on my property. There's one that I use like a gifting, and I'm not talking food, just like rocks, pebbles, whatever, and then they'll exchange it. you know, I'm in this whole other different mindset over here. And the things that have happened, I just, I have to really just, you know, I want to talk about this. That's why I'm writing a book, because I want it there to be like, hey, this happened. You know, this happened to me. You know, you're not crazy. I want my son to keep it. I want my grandkids to be able to read it, because if we stay on this property, if he has kids, well, you know, what's going to happen to them, you know, and what happens like when I left in 2021 and, you know, those evil things came into their dreams. And I mean, you know, at what point do you say enough is enough? So that's kind of where we're at right now. But right now, I mean, we just spend our time between Texas and North Idaho, and um, it just continues, you know.
Somebody had asked if you could briefly describe some of the mechanical sounds you might have heard.
Like wind chimes, but they're not wind chimes. They're like let's just say pieces like of metal, like clinging, clanging, like someone is working in the shop, like fixing something. But it's coming from the backside of my property, you know. I don't know how else to describe it. And it comes out of thin air. Like I can't tell if it's coming from that area or that area. Like it's coming out of thin air, and I can't distinguish what direction it's coming from, because it's not coming from this reality. It's coming from, like, I don't know, you know, like it's, I'll think, oh, okay, I heard it from that direction, but no, I heard it with my left ear, but I know I heard it from that direction. So it's hard to describe. Just clanking, like pots clanking, you know, tools. I don't know how else to describe it.
Okay. How many Bigfoots do you think are around your property? You had to take a guess.
Well, I mean, there's a clan. There's a female. I don't know if I talked about her. Her name is Keela. I just she comes around. I don't know if I told you all in the last episode. My husband's unit got deployed to go to Iraq in 2005, and I heard her out there cooing. I saw her later in life out in the woods at night. She's cinnamon colored. She's come around a couple of times. There's another one that I've seen out there. He's was friends with my Malamute, and he's got like chunky teeth. I call him Chunky Teeth. Um, I have been approached at conferences by complete strangers, and they say, I can see your great grandmother next to you. I was at Phenomicon in 2022 with a friend of mine, and I was looking for Russell Accord and Dr. Maria Mayor, because she's heard some of my audios, and she wanted to, I met her in 2020 or 2021 because the Travel Channel came up to North Idaho, and the producers, or one of them, wanted to come to my house, but I said no. And he's like, no, like, you know, the average person would be like, yeah, come over. I was like, no, because it's just, you just can't come over. And I did do a round table with them. So that's where I met Dr. Maria Mayor. I probably not saying her last name. And she's heard these audios, and she's like, oh, I want to go to your house. Well, you know, that didn't happen. Well, anyway, I ran into her at Phenomicon, and I think she recognized me, because I was like, hey, but I didn't get very far, because my friend that was with me was trying to pull me over to go speak to the clairvoyant people that were speaking that year. And I was like, I don't want to go over there, Kathy. I want to go this way to go see the Skinwalker people, the Skinwalker Ranch people, and then you know, my other friends. But I looked over, and this lady was sitting there at the table, and she stands up, she stands up. She stands up and she says, I can see your clan. And a lot of people, I had 8 friends standing around her table there, the owners of the LDS Film Festival, the Goodmans. A lot of people know them. Stephanie Goodman, she's into this topic. She started recording, so I've got film footage of that. That's going to be in my book too. I talk about this. I'm looking at this lady. Her name is Rebecca Foster. She's known worldwide. She's a clairvoyant. She's written 2 books. I've never seen this lady. I don't know who she is. She's saying, I can see your whole clan. I'm like, what? And so I walk over to her and I'm like, is this some kind of a joke? She's like, no. Do you have a white wolf dog? I'm like without a beat, missing a beat. I'm like, I have a Malamute. She said that my clan has telling her to tell me that my dog is sick and it's cancer. And when I get home, I need to give them maple syrup on the tree stump that looks like a teapot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know which tree stump that is. But my dog has cancer, and before we had hit the road, the prior weeks, my dog had been acting funny, and I caught her at the tail end of a seizure. And on the way to Phenomicon, me and my friend, I was telling her, hey, I think something is up with Star, my dog, and I even told my husband. So for this lady, who I've never seen in my entire life, and everybody witnessed this there around her table, I have got it on film. She said all that, and she said, when you get home, you need to take your dog to the vet. But of course, I'm crying. My other friend is crying. And there's another guy standing off on the wall. I met him later. He's a Lakota elder. I got to know him a little bit. But when I got home, I took her to the vet, confirmed she was cancer. She had cancer. She had an enlarged heart. He put her on water pills, another medication. 4 months later, she died in my arms.
Mm.
And that was because of my Sasquatch telling this lady to tell me. My best friend was there. You can ask anybody who was there. I've got it on video. I'm going to put that in my book. And I wanted to interview Rebecca Foster. She was always so busy. But I asked her if I could quote her in the book, and she was like, yeah, that's fine. So I do that. I've always meant to go back. I've called her a couple of times. I plan on continuing to work with her. She's amazing. Anyone who has questions about your life, she works through God only, and she will tell you that up front. If you don't believe in God, then she can't work with you. Her website is godstool.com, GODSTOOL.com. Write it down. Go to her website. I swear by her. I'm everything I've told you is the truth. There's a lot of things I haven't told you because I probably don't have time to talk about it, or I just can't remember. But so that's where I'm at. And trust me, it's cost me a lot. I've stuck my neck out there a million times. You know, I've been called a liar and a hoaxer. I've got a photo of a Sasquatch coming out of a tree, morphing out of a tree. The energy, you can see it. And I made the mistake of sharing that on Facebook, but I put on there, we do believe that the Sasquatch can do this to photos. We do believe that they can change they're interdimensional. But of course, I took the photo and it went viral, and then I'm called a liar. I'm called a hoaxer, whatever. So I did not do that to that photo. That was 2017. And to this day, no one's come forth. One person thinks it's real, that remote viewed the property, and another person said that they don't know. So who knows? I don't know. But my son now is 23. My older son is 31. And, we just continue to have these experiences, and it's all just part of life now. So what I want to do is just when I get back and I'm done going back and forth from Idaho to Texas, I would like to to really go to the next level. And they know where you're at, I believe. They know your fear level. They know what you can. I was just up in Oklahoma 2 months ago with 2 other people camping, and we are all of the same mindset. There's 3 of us, and we were in 50 acres surrounded by state land and by Honobia, Talihina up there, Oklahoma, and we saw glowing eyes, but not like, you know, like when you see a dog and the eyes light up because from the reflection. It's from like an inner glow. Like I don't even know how to describe it. And we don't do like regular campouts. When we showed up, we set our intent. We all prayed, and we just kind of relaxed and hung out. And we were hearing things out in the woods. And then we saw these eyes. And then at another point, we saw 2 sets of eyes. One of the eyes came down, and then they were coming in very fast. And then my friend stood up, and that was they stopped. The eyes stopped. So she, her intent was, wait a minute. She freaked out a little bit. I was getting a little freaked out too. So because I've never seen them come in like that. So, but it was one set of eyes that coming in, but they weren't walking. There's no way, because it looked like the eyes were flying in, and I'm just like, and then they stopped. So I don't know what that was. I don't know. That was in Southeast Oklahoma just very recently. So, I'm out here doing things too. Brown Springs is another area that is heavy with lore. I've been there a couple of times, but I didn't go back researching. I went back to respect and to clear the area out and to clean the area with healing. But I don't know enough about that. I did camp out there in 2019. No, I'm sorry, December of 2021. And I've had some, weird things happen. My truck door was left open after we left camp, and the door was locked, and that happened 2 or 3 times. So just weird things like that, and it just, there's, I'm all into ley lines now, into this whole other, but a lot more people are as well. I know people are not laughing anymore at this. You still have the same old diehards that don't want to get past the flesh and blood concept, and that's okay. I'm not here to, but I'm so past that. And like today, I went out there like researching, science, like really, I was gonna like measuring and things like that. I was gonna cast it, but I didn't, because it was it was the people there were working, and again, I just didn't feel comfortable, so I didn't. So there is science in the woo. Henry Franzoni explained it very well. He is also in my book. He's a scientist who worked with the Indians up in Yakima, with the tribes there. He's very, very well respected in his field, and he's known for explaining this phenomena. So is Ron Moorhead. I interviewed him for my book. We had some words. I interviewed Kumbo. He was earlier on in the beginning. I interviewed Luke Gross. He's amazing. He's in the beginning of my journey, and this is just, I go from flesh and blood to quantum physics. Igor Rostov has been on my property, and he'll tell you too. And he'll explain the woo to you too. And my book is dedicated to Henry Franzoni, who passed away. He was interviewed on A Flash of Beauty. I like both of those. I like Brett and Jill. I interviewed them as well. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I have no problem, telling that to people or discussing that, because I feel like this is something that we need to talk about, and that if someone needs to ask me about what's happening, then we have to harness that and protect it and write it down for future generations. I don't know what's going to happen at my house, but I know my son has a long road ahead of him, and I know he's got a greater calling than I do, and that worries me and it freaks me out for my grandchildren too. So I don't know what the answer is, and I hope I figure it out, because I would like to either stay there and get on with it, or I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hopefully I wasn't too boring.
You're fine. One more here. I got Flat Rock asked if you ever heard what some say is a car door slamming shut.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'll be like, what's that? Oh yeah. I've heard like things falling on the roof, and then I've heard like, burning on the roof, and I'm like, is that a raccoon? Or, like there's moments. Yeah, I've heard various things. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. We're headed towards 3 hours. We're at
What
2
did I
hours
tell
and
you last
46
time?
minutes. Yeah, I know. It's okay. Lots to talk about. It's all good. Jeffrey, you got anything?
It's hard to keep track of all this stuff.
It is.
Yep.
It's a lot to take
Especially
in.
if you have a problem with anything that I've said.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people tell me, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, stuff calling me outside, no. No, we're not doing that. That is a big no. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It could definitely get your attention.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to live there anymore after that.
Well, if you learn to not be afraid, but I mean, realistically, as a human being, if you are awakened, I guess, and you have your discernment in a good place, or if you can do that, which, I don't always, I second guess myself a lot. I just could not believe that they went after my kids after we left. Like the moment we left, my son, my poor son, having those dreams, he said they just tormented me, Mom. Like he just dreamed about, it's like a madness. I'm just like, and I don't know about y'all, but as a mama, I don't care how old my kids are, they'll always be my kids. I felt this fierceness when I heard about this.
Oh yeah.
And I lay down my intent, and I walked that summer. I walked my whole property, and I said, so help me God, you better freaking, I said something else, get off this property. You are not welcome here. And I meant it as a permanent stance. I said, I may leave, but it stays the same. You will not stay here. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You got to set those boundaries, but, all in Jesus.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
You want to hit her with that one, Mary?
Well, no, it's, I've experienced a few things myself, but, you have to step out. You're in fear, but in the strength of your knowledge that you're protected by God. So you have that power to rebuke them. Yeah, they're not demons, no, but even so, they're under God's hand also, and so they have to listen to you.
Yes, ma'am.
But no, I've gone full out mama bear on them a few times myself.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, ma'am. He's been on his dirt bike up in the mountains with friends, and they'll stop to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll hear the evergreens just going off, and he's like, okay, it's time to go. So, just this is ever since he was 2, boy, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm worried this new thing this new career he's going to get into, sounds like he's going to be in the woods all the time. And I just, I don't know. I don't know. I do not know.
Tammy's
I'm
asking if
obviously
you're.
worried.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I'm done.
GIA is in Texas or your other property?
What?
Is that
Tammy
Gia?
ask her if. Go ahead, Jeff.
Is that
You can
Gia?
ask one. Gia is in
Yeah.
Texas or her other property?
I'm in Texas right now. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I don't know what she means by Gia.
By word, what she asked is ask her if GIA is in Texas or her other property.
I don't know. Who's Gia?
I don't know.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I don't know what they're asking.
Maybe she's referring to that female Bigfoot.
Okay, so her name is Keela.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's probably what
That's
it is.
North Idaho. That's North Idaho. She's come around a couple of times. She'll come around like, when one time me and my husband were having an argument. I don't know if that was her, but it was funny because we fought like cats and dogs, because we've been married so long I stopped counting. But we were fighting one day. And there was this big rock that came out of the woods and it hit, I don't know, a board. This is before we had a shop. And he's like, see, they're saying you better behave. I'm like, oh no, they're saying you better behave. So we'll joke like that. But it's just, yeah, Keela, Keela is her name. And I've got a little flack over that. Like, how do you know her name is Keela? I don't. It just, I just named her that. I don't know. So, some people will ask me, or they used to ask me, really, like you believe in that? I'm like, hey, it happened. Like, I've got so many freaking witnesses that'll tell you everything I've told you. And one day I went outside in my woods and my dog, Star, my Malamute, she was going through this tree. It's like this bush that the moose love to eat it. And we have this trampoline there in the front yard, and that's fenced in. There's this trampoline there, and then there's these bushes there that we never mow down because the moose like to eat them. I was looking at this bush because she was going through this bush, and she was just like going woof woof. And then she just kept going through there. And then something told me to get my phone, and I got my phone and I started panning. And oh my God, I'll just tell you, I don't care if you tell me I'm freaking crazy. There was a Sasquatch sitting there in like if you've seen that movie Predator,
Yeah.
you see the mist.
Oh boy.
You see I could see it. I don't know what else to tell you, but I could see the back part of it. And she had just, she didn't go, she stopped. And then that was when I could see it. I was like, oh my gosh, I see you. And I could see the back part of it, not like the front. And then I moved my phone like this, and I moved my phone away and I couldn't see anything. And then I moved my phone back and there it was. Don't ask me why I'm capturing it with my phone. I don't know. But there it was. I could see the side of it, and it looked like it was like chewing on something, like doing that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go have some whiskey inside the house. I know I am not, this is not happening. This is not happening. And then I looked again, and it got up and it walked away. And I thought, okay. I went in the house and I sat down, and I probably had a shot of tequila. I don't know. But that's the one time that I saw it for sure. I just saw it. I don't, Call me crazy.
Man.
And then someone even said, well, what you saw was an evil spirit. And I was like, I don't think so. Because I know how to discern. You know, I've gotten pretty good at it. And I'm not right all the time, but I don't know. I just, you know, okay. I'm crazy. Okay. I've had other people that have seen things on my property that I haven't seen. So, and they've seen them in their predator mode themselves. I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
We were picking huckleberries. This was not on my property. I had to go to the bathroom, and then when I left, my friend said that she was being pelted with rocks or pine cones or something. And she is not even into this topic at all. We don't even discuss it. She's one of my best friends. And after that, she never went berry picking alone again. And so that was pretty funny. She said that she saw something like a black mist, and she just went, okay, I want to go. This is up in Priest Lake, Idaho. I've seen black mist before in the woods over snow. And then there's nothing there. There's no tracks. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
I've seen that, like this black thing, you know, going. I'm like, what is that? And I went out there. It was virgin snow. There was nothing. Like, okay, I don't know. Another time there was this big glyph drawn into the snow, like a big A. This big A drawn into the snow. I'm like, okay. I've got these massive, what's the word? Not X's, like an asterisk in my woods. And I've seen those in a million places, you know. The upside down tree, you know, seen that up in Priest Lake. And I really haven't, you know, the small little teepees I see here in East Texas. I haven't seen those up there. I've found 3 tow tracks here in East Texas. Not up north. Maybe one time, but that was just a partial track. I found tracks that stop, and where did they go? I mean, I could go on and on. It's maddening. It really is.
Yeah. You did see him on Hoodoo Mountain, correct? Up like you said that earlier.
Yes. Yep. But fast, not like, you know, very clear, but I knew what it was because I had been on horseback, you know, many, many times, but mainly on my own property. So on my land. We've seen other things up there. Well, not me, but I've gotten reports of this white thing that they're seeing up there. It's a shapeshifter. I got a report of a lady driving to work. And she was going down the Spirit Lake Cutoff and Peregrine Road. You can look it up on a map. And there's nothing but massive state land out there. She was driving, and she sees the moose, and she's like, oh, cool, you know, because like the moose are down from the mountains, and it's just off in the ditch they're eating. And she says she's driving by, and she looks at it, and then she goes, this moose was like eating, and it came up, and it as she drove by, it went like this. And she just went. And then she looked in her rearview mirror. The moose went down, and then it turned into like this person spinely thing, and then it went down into the woods. So it never stood up, but she said it looked like a naked man, but it was like spinely. She didn't say white, and it went off into the woods. And you know, there's a guy there who wrote a book called Hoodoo. He lived on the other side of Hoodoo, and he contacted me like a couple of years ago, and him and his wife had a encounter on their property. It was a white Sasquatch. He wrote a book. It's called Hoodoo. They're the same publisher I'm going to go through. His books are already out. It's fiction, but it's called Hoodoo. I'm like, hey, I was going to call my book Hoodoo. So check it out. It's called Hoodoo. It's a great book. It's very well written. And he talks about Hoodoo Mountain and the legends and everything. So yeah.
Well, we're 3 hours in. It's 11, almost 11:30 here, so 5 o'clock comes early.
I swear I keep hearing something hit my wall behind me.
I hear your dog yapping all the time.
I don't know what he's getting a scent of something. The other two aren't reacting, but Gunner's. He's
Gunner knows we're talking about him.
Well, he's the one that would be dumb enough to go do something with one of them and then end up getting me in a situation. The other two, I think, have enough sense.
That's too funny.
Although sometimes he'll just sit there and not do anything. But
back of your head, probably.
It's not the deer head.
That's funny.
Back of my head. Patrick, shut up. Good.
Well, Cindy, we appreciate you coming on again. Man, that's lots of stuff to tell. Like you said, you skipped over a bunch of stuff. So, my goodness.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under Cindy Goodbrake, and I have a page. So, Sasquatch Sisters Northwest. So you can look for that on Facebook, and I'm not always active on there, but you know, I try. So I'm trying to, you know, upload things more and more. But if nothing's going on, I don't upload anything. You know, I might just do a live, you know, from, you know, wherever. And so, but yeah, you know, I'm here in Texas. You know, we're hooking up with a lot of people that I used to research with, and some new friends too, like Robin and Gary. I've camped out with Gary before too, actually at Brown Springs, where some of those weird things happened. So.
Yep, been there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, with Kimbo. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was there too with Bear in the 90s. I don't know if, I'm sure Kimbo was there. I don't know. You know, there's just and that's another reason why I wrote the book, because I wanted, you know, my memory is going. So, hey, it's a true story. So I was kind of, you know, I'm like, okay, I've got to write this down. So, so yeah, if people want to reach me, my email is Goodbrake, BRAKE .CINDY@gmail.com. And if you are having anything like what's happened to me, and if you have questions, I have people contact me all the time, and you know, some are weird, but I am thinking, I'm hoping that that's what my mission is now. I don't know. So you know, it's cost me a lot. I've lost a lot of friends. But you know, I just try to. I'm just here to tell my story. So.
Mary, any final words?
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. It's great to finally meet you.
Oh, yes, Will. It would be great to meet you in person.
Yes.
So you are in, I'm sorry, what state again? Alabama, Georgia?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're in Pennsylvania. Okay, I'm getting stuck on the South. Okay. Yeah. So
we have a lot of Alabama people around here, so you know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that's pretty funny. You know, I would like to end by saying something. When I started acknowledging them, they calmed down. Like if I don't acknowledge them, then they don't calm down.
Yeah.
They'll keep going off, or they'll keep doing whatever to get my attention. So ignoring them did not work.
Yeah, because they'll keep ramping it up in order to get you to react.
Yes, exactly. So it's been a long road, and so yeah, thanks for having me on, and that's it, I guess.
Okie dokie. I'm going to bed.
Covered a lot.
Me too.
Me
okay,
too.
We appreciate it, and we'll be back probably next Tuesday, Jeffrey, with somebody. Oh, we have somebody, don't we?
Sasquatch Swede.
Swedish Sasquatch will be here.
Yeah, Swedish Sasquatch. Yeah.
Oh,
Next week. 8:15, probably. It'd be 8:15 p.m. again.
Yep.
So
Suzanne?
Yep, Suzanne.
So cool. I'll definitely be you're watching.
Yeah.
okay. Good deal. Okay. Mary, thank you for filling in tonight.
Absolutely. I had
Seen
fun.
Chad was in chat, so I have to have a talk with him tomorrow about that. I'm just
Mary's gonna have to go get her beauty rest now.
Yeah.
I still gotta go pick some things up around the house and see what in the world Dingus is going on about.
Go finish your stew.
Yeah, I gotta monitor that for a little bit. I've been working on a stew over here in the crock pot.
no, don't fall
Well,
asleep.
sorry, I was on for 3 hours.
I know.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Well, I
I can hear
talk
my
about
husband on the other side of the door saying yap 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 yap. He's like, Cindy, shut up. Let's go to bed. Those poor people.
No, all of ours between the 3 different groups, woodwalkers and old line cryptids and myself, we always run about 3 hours anyway. So
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
hard not to.
yeah,
Sometimes.
I mean, sometimes chat can just get loaded, and we appreciate them. Get loaded with questions, and it's hard to get. You do the best you can to get them all answered and stuff.
Yeah, and I have been doing podcasts for 10 years now, and I would like to think I'm getting better, but I'm 61, 62. I'm going to be 62. I'm super ADD, and I hop around a lot, so thank you for keeping up. If you
Yeah.
Could you imagine how bad it would be if Kunbo and I were talking? We'd probably be there for the whole week.
5 hours.
You'd fall asleep, Jeff. You would fall asleep, Jeff.
there was one episode on somebody's show, can't remember. Kumbo was on, and the show was like 6 hours long.
It
was
was
Roger.
Roger
Williams.
Okay.
Watch and holler, yeah.
I actually went to
We're
bed,
headed to
woke
breakout.
up, and the show was still going.
Yeah. We're headed to breakout record on our 100th show, so.
Oh my God.
Well, I think one of the last times he was on Woodwalkers, Kunbo was talking, and Greg went and cooked for an hour and came back, and it was still another
Yeah.
I talked with him today at Kumbo. I'm trying to get him to come down to my friend Tanya Kordak's museum there, the Bigfoot Enigma Museum and Research Center out of Clayton, Oklahoma. They're having monthly events. So February, there's going to be a guy by the name of Dino Russo. He will be discussing remote viewing. In March, there's going to be a guy named Mark. He's going to be talking about portals over the Washitas and the Woo and quantum stuff. And then in April, I'm speaking at the museum with Jess Southern. She's living in the South now. So we will be talking there, and I'm going to be talking more of like the area there and like when I was there, like the first show that I did with y'all. And then in May, they're going to have something really fun. There's a guy by the name of Dave. Y'all need to hook up with him and get him on your show. He goes, I forgot his last name, Super Dave. Have you heard of him? He lives in Arkansas. Well, he is like a biker, but he's been researching, studying Bigfoot for like over 50 years. So he's got a pretty active Facebook page. So May, they're doing bikers and Bigfoot. So that's going to be fun. Yeah, we'll probably ride, if the weather's good, ride the Harley up there from here. It's 2.5 hours from East Texas, where I live, and those are my old stomping grounds too. So yeah, if anybody's in Southeast Oklahoma, yeah, look up the museum. And we're trying to get events going every single month, to keep to bring in income and to keep the ball rolling, something new and different. So so if you haven't been there, huh?
I'm sorry. Did the museum in Tallahena, did they move?
Yes. From
Okay.
Tallahena to Clayton. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that Dave Osborne? That's what Corky was asking.
I don't know his last name. I'm so sorry. I don't know. But he is over one of the biggest chapters of my a biker group. It's I don't know, but I know he's going to be speaking at the Falk Fest Monster Festival. So if you go to that page, you can see Dave and who he is. So he'll be involved with that. You know, Craig Woolheater's group. So that is in, I forgot what month, spring. I got the hiccup, spring. So
looks like
you
I
can
got
look.
some research to do after the big freeze is over.
Yeah.
Well, y'all have a good night, and thanks for having me on.
Yes.
We appreciate
Same
you
to
coming
you.
on. Thank you.
Thank
Everybody
you.
else, we will see everybody next Tuesday,
Don't be
8:15
too hard on your husband.
Yeah.
Probably already.
All right. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday.